Hi, this is Monk from Team Liquid, and I'm at the BWC or WCS Grand Finals with EG.IdrA, who just 4-0'd his group, 2-0'ing Roro and 2-0'ing Stefano, in what's called the Group of Death. First of all, before coming to this tournament, when you found out about your seed, you immediately tweeted, "Oh, I shouldn't have said so much shit about Blizzard." Do you still agree with that, or?
I mean, I was kidding. It was a really tough group. I still think it was the hardest group going in. But Roro wasn't quite as good as I expected. Everyone talks about Hero and Stefano. I honestly thought Roro would be the best player in the group. I expected to lose to him pretty badly, and then maybe eke past the other two. And he turned out to not be that amazing. So maybe it wasn't the hardest group. Maybe the last one or the one after us. Two of the other groups were pretty hard as well. So maybe it wasn't the Group of Death, but it was still really hard.
Did you coming into this? Did you expect to go out, or did you expect to get out of the group, or did you just give up at the start?
Well, obviously I didn't give up. No programmer would ever do that. But like I said, I thought I would lose to Roro. I thought there was a pretty good chance I would lose to Roro, and then that I would beat Hero and Stefano. Stefano's CVZ is not his best matchup, and he's been traveling a lot. He hasn't really been able to practice, and Hero's super tilted versus Zerg right now. So I felt pretty good going against those two. Roro, I expected him to be much better than he was.
So you played 4 ZVZs and you won on all of them. Could you describe the games for me?
First game against Roro, he opened Muta, I opened Infestor. Pretty normal macro game, got up to 4 bases, but I caught all of his Mutas and an Overseer and a Chain Fungal, so that burned a bunch of gas. I ended up 20 supply ahead when I maxed, so I just kind of went and attacked him. His army was out of position on Daybreak, so he let me down the ramp and he let my Infestors get out first, so I just kind of won from there. Cloud Kingdom, very normal openings, both got to 3 bases and Infestors. He lost a bunch of drones to a little sneak baneling attack on his third. And then he ran his army down. It was just a really weird move. He thought he could run past my army and get into my main, but I caught him kind of out of position, so I won that battle. Not easily, but by enough. And then I just took that army advantage and kind of took map control. I denied his 4th for a while. And then I just always had more expansions up. So I had a much bigger bank going into the big Brewlord Infestor fight, and I was able to remax much faster than him. And the 2 games against Stefano, the first game, we were just neck and neck, Roach Hydra macro, Roach Hydra Infestor. But then he attacked on Daybreak, which you can't do in a straight up game. I just fungled him on the ramp. His run by did a little damage, but I ended up, 60, 70 supply ahead probably. I was able to just attack, move, and clean him out. Then on Antigua, he took a really fast 4th, which is weird on Antigua because it's so exposed out in the center. So I was I was going to try and punish it. I waited for my +2 to finish my Hydras to get out to attack it. But he managed to hold, which kind of surprised me. I'm not entirely sure how. I have to watch the replay. But then he overmade Hydras, and he kept trying to push in and kill me off, but he didn't really need to because he was 4 base to 3. So that allowed me to get some really good engagement, fight really efficiently, and I managed to get in and kill off his 4th and keep mine alive for long enough to get big army advantage and eventually win.
Okay. Since you're on the same team with Stefano, right? I know a lot of intra-team matches, they have a lot of mind games behind them. Do you think being on the same team and these mind games helped you win, or were there no mind games at all because you don't really practice them a lot?
No, we've played a decent amount, although we never played in a tournament before, and Stefano in practice is very different from Stefano in a tournament. But I know that he likes Roach Hydra Infestor macro, and I prefer that as well, so it was kind of just straight up games. The fact that we both know that, we probably played a little bit greedier, a little bit more comfortable than we would against a more unpredictable player, but neither of us really tried to mind game. They were very straight up games.
You mentioned that Stefano in practice is a lot different than Stefano in tournaments. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, I don't know. Something about him. He just he wins when he has to. I've never seen a better competitive tournament player, more clutch, all that. At Lone Star, the thing in Texas.
Yeah, Lone Star.
Lone Star. He wasn't even playing that well. If you look at his games, he made a lot of mistakes, a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. He still won the whole thing and beat Bomber in the end. He knows how to win when it matters. Whereas in practice, a lot of those mistakes will shine through, and he doesn't care as much, so he'll lose.
Well, unfortunately for you, even though you got past the Group of Death, Baby Knight upset Rain, and now Rain is the 2nd place player from the group that you will be facing. So in the round of 16, it will be IdrA versus Rain. How do you feel about that, and what are your chances?
Well, obviously he's really, really good. I would have picked him as the tournament favorite, the best player going in. But I can beat him. My ZVP is much, much better than it used to be. And his PvZ does have some weaknesses. I think he said it's his worst matchup. A lot of my management and coaches and whatnot, they're all looking at VODs of him right now. They're going to tell me how he plays. So because I don't really know that well. I haven't seen him play that much. So I'll be prepared for it going in that way. And I mean, I just got through the group of death. I didn't really think I'd be able to do that. So I can beat Rain too. And if I beat him, I feel really good for the rest of the tournament because, like I said, I'm pretty sure he's the best player here.
I've actually been analyzing a lot of Rain games myself, and what he does all the time is that he does some really safe builds off of 2-base, and then he transitions into a 30-minute Immortal Blink Stalker timing. He did that in the OSL versus Dong or Gu, and versus Gosu user, and in some other tournament right directly after. So he has like 3 or 4 different openings, like Phoenix, Robo Expand, Twilight Expand, and then he goes into the exact same timing at the exact same time. So maybe you should watch out for that, right?
That's fascinating.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Okay, so after you beat Rain, right? How are your chances going to the rest of the tournament?
Like I said, I feel he's the best player. I don't know what the rest of the bracket looks like. I haven't looked at it yet. But if I beat him, I feel like I can beat anyone for sure. Because Korean Protoss, I'm pretty sure they're the biggest threat of anyone here. He's the best of them. So if I get through that, no Terran here will beat me. I feel very comfortable with ZVT. And ZVZ, I mean, I just beat Roro and Stefano 2-0. So Curious is pretty good, but I think he might have even been knocked out. Or he might be playing elimination right now. Roro's out. Hero knocked Roro out.
Curious advanced.
Curious would be tough too. And all the Protosses are pretty good, but I would feel very good if I beat Rain simply because I think he's the best, and that kind of momentum really helps me out.
Okay, so you mentioned that you don't think any Terran in this tournament can beat you. So because of that, did you practice with that in mind and not practice the ZVT matchup at all?
I mean, there's only 4 Terrans here. Most of my practice is just on ladder because like NA custom games aren't particularly useful. But yeah, I didn't worry about Terran at all. I don't even really expect to play one.
Last time you were in China was for IEM Guangzhou, right? And you won that tournament, and it was really big for you because you weren't doing so well at the time. Do you think this could be your resurgence, and do you think China is especially good for you?
I think if I win the Blizzard World Championships, I think that would definitely be a shot in the arm for my career. Yeah, China, I don't know. It's weird. I don't particularly like traveling here. It's not my favorite place to go, but I seem to perform pretty well here. I played pretty well in Stars War 2. Those are the only 2 StarCraft 2 things I played here. Seems to work out well for me. I'm not really sure why.
Do you like China, or do you like Shanghai, or did you prefer Guangzhou? What do you think about the Chinese atmosphere in general?
Like I said, it's not my favorite place to travel to. It's a pretty long trip from the U.S. It's kind of, I don't know, the food's not my favorite. Just not my favorite place to visit now.
Okay. Okay, so now we'll move on to something that's been in the community talk for a long time, the Infestor Broodlord. Do you think that Infestor Broodlord might be a bit too strong? And do you think Terran and Protoss can viably go in the late game versus Infestor Broodlord?
Terrans and Protosses aren't playing right versus it yet, so it could still be overpowered, but we don't know until they actually play it properly, and then we see if it's possible for them to win then. Protosses are like halfway there figuring it out. They figured out all the Warp Prism pass, speed Warp Prisms. If you get into the mid game in good shape, like you get your 4th base up in time, you have all your tech going, then you do the Warp Prism pass. If Zerg is playing for the Turtle Broodlord Infestor, eventually they will be put all in on that army just because they don't have the mobility to defend efficiently. Eventually it'll wear them down. And so the Protosses do that pretty well. The best example of this is Rain versus DRG on Antigua, the first game of the OSL Finals. But then Protosses, what they do wrong is they stick on Archon Stalker Mothership and they hope for a big Vortex, and that's just not enough versus an actual 200 supply Broodlord Infestor army. They need to be switching to Carrier High Templar Mothership. And that can beat the army, and a lot of Protosses think that composition's bad because they do it like just in normal games with no pressure, and then a remax on Corruptors just beats it. But if you are harassing and then you go into that, then Zerg doesn't have the economy or the infrastructure to actually do that remax, and you will win the first battle with the Carrier High Templar. And then for Terran, they need to be playing Turtle Mech with Ravens, and that's just kind of it. Like, the bigger thing there is actually learning how to handle Mech in the mid-game, when to do timings, when to defend, and when you will need to defend against Zerg all-ins and whatnot. So yeah.
Okay, so in PvZ you mentioned a Carrier Mothership High Templar, right? What should Protoss do to combat Fungals and Infested Terrans right there?
Feedback?
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, so I think that's all the questions I have right now. Do you have something to say to your sponsors, shout-outs or anything?
I'd like to thank Team Evil Geniuses, all our great sponsors, title sponsor Raid Call, as well as Intel, Monster, Steel Series, Kingston, HyperX, and Beyond Gaming. And thank you all for watching.
This is Monk from Team Liquid, and this has been an interview with EG.IdrA. Please stay tuned for more interviews at teamliquid.net.